Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys. Friday, January 16th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, ready to break down the Friday NHL card. We've got 5 games on tap tonight. A couple of good ones, too, and we'll get to those, obviously, in just a little bit. First, we'll look back on Thursday night. That was overall good, overall profitable. We had a couple things that went awry, but for the most part, no complaints. It was a pretty good night overall. We started the night with first of all, Buffalo Sabres, congrats, another victory, 5-3. This was one of the things I got wrong was Montreal last night with the money line and team total over split falling short. We did have the over by Fecta, but had more on the Montreal bets than I did the over by Fecta. But a nice win for Buffalo, 5-3. I thought that was probably the worst I've seen from Jacob Fowler in his time with Montreal. He fouled it up last night, no pun intended. With that. It was not a good night for him. Those a couple of those early goals, too. I mean, those were short side goal on Thompson early in the game by Tage Thompson. Just didn't look sharp. And sure enough, Montreal made the announcement today that they're sending him back down to the American Hockey League. Look, there's no doubt the kid's got talent. He's going to be good long term, but he needs more seasoning. There's no doubt. He's not NHL ready just yet. And he had a couple of good starts there for the first few times we've seen him. But the last couple, I think, his play in net's kind of gone downhill. The Detroit game wasn't great when they got shut out 4-0 with him in net. And like I said, last night, I thought a couple of those goals were a little bit suspect given up by Jacob Fowler. But nevertheless, give Buffalo all the credit in the world. They played well once again. They were opportunistic, and they get a 5-3 win. Their power play is humming right now. And I'm telling you, when Tage Thompson plays like that, a man possessed, 5 points and a hat trick for Tage Thompson last night in the win, that takes Buffalo to a completely different level when he plays like that, no doubt. So another nice win for Buffalo. They're now 14-2. In their 15-2 rather in their last 17 games, and a great job by Buffalo with the 20-year anniversary or reunion, I should say, of the team from the 2005-2006 season that made the Eastern Conference Final and lost to Carolina in Game 7 that year. And they had so many injuries. I'm convinced if Buffalo didn't have so many injuries that year in the playoffs, they might have beat Carolina in the conference final and gotten to the Stanley Cup final, maybe even won it. But they just got so short-handed and depleted. They were down to like only 2 of the 3 of their starting defensemen left, by the end of that Carolina series. But they were all back. Tim Connolly, Alesh Kotelik, Thomas Vanek. They were all back on the Andrew Peters, Jason Pominville, Derek Roy, who we had on the show once a few years ago. Like I said, they were all back as far as for that 20-year reunion of that playoff year for the Buffalo Sabres. So it was fun to see them. Ryan Miller, like I said, they were all back there last night, had their skates on, and did a little lap around the ice. So nice little moment there, remembering when the Sabres were truly one of the best teams in the NHL that season in 2006. But certainly giving their fans a little bit of a sign that maybe, just maybe, at some point they can get back there. But like I said, they got a long way to go, but the returns continue to be impressive right now for Buffalo. How about my call on the San Jose Sharks last night? Just had that feeling, that they could be, and that's no fluke. They dominated Washington in their building last night. 3-2 win over the Capitals. It was 26-23 shots in favor of San Jose, especially in the first 2 periods. Like San Jose outshot them 23-9 in the first 2 periods of that game. They did kind of hang on at the end. Washington finally did have a big push in the third, but Nedeljkovic kept them at bay, and San Jose with a 3-2 win in that game. A great start to the road trip for the Sharks. Lost the over, the first under in 14 games for the San Jose Sharks. But still, to be able to cash with San Jose and the team total over kind of made up for it a little bit. How about Columbus? 4-1 against Vancouver, 2-0 in the Rick Bowness era. And Rick Bowness is working miracles right now for Columbus in 2 games when Elvis Merzlikins even plays a great game in net. And he was good. 30-some saves, only the 1 goal allowed. And check out the clip, and I posted it in our group. It's out there. Yeah. He did a post-game interview with Jody Shelley after the win. Basically, say to everybody that you hate Dean Evason's guts without actually saying, I hate Dean Evason's guts. And that's basically what you heard from Merzlikins in that interview. Yeah, it's the coach. Yeah, and they said it again. Yeah, it's the coach. So, yeah, that tells you all you need to know. But then again, I understand why he's pissed at the coach. He kind of and look, he was not playing well. He has to own some of it. How is the coach going to put you in there when you stink, when you're not getting the job done? And that's what it got to. Maybe there was times when it got to the point where it was, 3 weeks running without him starting one single game. That's probably what pissed off Elvis when it came to Everson. But nevertheless, you can tell maybe this is going to be a good reset for him, that now there's a new voice behind the bench, because, boy, his first start and his first opportunity, and Everson wasn't giving him any opportunities anymore, but Bonus throws him in there, his second game behind the bench, and he has probably one of the better performances in net that he's had in a long time. So maybe he can find something here, Elvis Merzlikins. But it was a good performance last night in that 4-1 victory for Columbus from the goaltender. Pittsburgh beats Philly 6-3. More struggles defensively. I'm telling you, it's problems for Philadelphia. Their penalty kill, which was so good, is terrible now. And without Dan Vladar, Sam Ersson ain't it right now. Another rough night for him. And like I said, another rough night for Philadelphia as the losing streak continues. Minnesota, man, losing 6-2 to Winnipeg. Cash the over. Best bet for me. Jets wild over 5.5. But boy, oh boy, 2 goals in the last 11 seconds for Winnipeg. Just soul-sucking, devastating for Winnipeg to give those up and go down 3-0 at the end of the first. They never recovered, Minnesota, from going down 3-0, and they lose 6-2 to the Winnipeg Jets. And all of a sudden, Winnipeg can't be stopped. They couldn't buy a win, and now suddenly they can't be stopped on this win streak. Zdeno Chara ceremony night, as his number is retired to the rafters of TD Garden. Great ceremony. That was really well done by the Bruins, and the Bruins fed off that. Nice 4-2 win over the Seattle Kraken last night. How about Dallas? Struggles continue. They're 2-9 in their last 11 games, the Dallas Stars, and they lose to the Utah Mammoth last night by a score of 2-1 in that game. Offense, again, hard to come by. Speaking of offense hard to come by, 1-0 Islanders. What a performance by Ilya Sorokin. 30-plus save shutout. He was excellent. Edmonton did everything but tie it late, and the Islanders get a 1-0 win, shutting out the Edmonton Oilers last night on the road. Very, very solid, impressive showing, especially from the goaltender, Ilya Sorokin. Chicago, man, disappointing. I know Alex will have a few things to say about the Blackhawks. 3-1 loss to Calgary, who've been bad on the road, have had a rough road trip so far, and you're down in the third. You need a push on home ice. 5 shots on goal in the third period. 5? Really, Chicago? That's it? That's all you can offer when you're trailing at home to a team that can't get out of their own way on the road most of the season. That's disheartening. That's a bad one for the Chicago Blackhawks last night, and a 3-1 loss. And we got to give Devin Cooley more props, man. This guy has just been – he's been a revelation. He's been a sensational for Calgary. Another win for the backup netminder of the Calgary Flames last night, Devin Cooley, and a phenomenal hockey game to end the night on ESPN with Toronto Vegas. The pace was off the charts. Very tough loss for Toronto. They're 7 seconds away from winning the game. Hurdle ties it with the late goal, and then they win it in overtime with Eichel, 6-5. Very tough because I had Toronto, but we did have the over by Fekta, so it wasn't all bad. But that was a great hockey game. Not good, great start to finish. Tremendous pace, back and forth, excitement, great action. The goaltending, even though it was suspect at times, there was also some really good saves. Aiden Hill looked rusty as hell early in the game. He was not good early in the game. He kind of settled in after that, but still not a great return for him. Got the win thanks to the 6 goals support, but like I said, could take Aiden Hill some time. Tough loss for Toronto, but still, they beat Colorado. They nearly beat Vegas. They made a good account of themselves, but man, when you have multi-2-goal leads in that game like the Leafs had, and I know they lost Nylander to injury during that game, and they were down a forward. That was big, but you got to find a way to close that out when you have multi-2-goal leads. They weren't able to do so. Alex, your thoughts on a pretty wild Thursday night?
Yeah, it was a wild night. It wasn't the best profitable night for myself. Lost with that Toronto game. Came up short with that over in that San Jose game. Also tried to tie that with the San Jose to score in the first. They did not complete that. Montreal never quite had a lead. Like I said, with Buffalo. Buffalo pulls away with that game. So some rough results. Did have a good winner with that match with Winnipeg and Minnesota over. Like you said, just a bad night for Jesper Wallstedt. And, we got to remember, this is still a young goaltender. He's going to have bad games. I know we were talking with Terry yesterday, and he's saying, Now you got to put him in package him in a trade potentially to improve this team
Terry,
in
come
different
on.
things. And it's just like
We were over the wild, no pun intended, the wild overreactions, Terry.
We went from calling him the Wall of St. Paul 2 months ago to now all of a sudden he's a liability. Like it's insane. But with that being said, he is regressing to the form that he was playing. He was lights out in October, November. We knew that he wasn't going to keep that pace the entire season, but he's starting to wear down a little bit. Teams are starting to figure him out. And remember, this is not a young guy who's going to get rest. Him and his battery mate, Philip Gustafson, are going over to the Olympics and going to have to play games, and more than likely are going to be splitting time in that for at least the first couple of games. So it's something where, this is a kid that, okay, he could benefit from probably a couple of weeks of rest and getting back into the race and getting back to what's certainly a wild open spot now for number 2 in the Central Division because of how you said Dallas now struggling 2-9 in their last 11 games. You're only 2 points back behind Dallas, which more than likely will be, like I said, that second spot, and that'll be home ice. And home ice will be crucial if you're playing Dallas based on how the playoff series with the Wild and Stars have gone in recent years. So to have that kind of positioning and setup right now, that is kind of problematic and a bit troubling for the Wild moving forward. Hawks game was just absolutely awful. It was good to see this team once again getting into scrums, getting into mixing it up with Calgary. These two teams have a beef with one another for one reason or another, but it's made for it really chippy. I mean, you got Connor Murphy getting a hard hit and then taking a minute to kind of collect himself before getting into a fight with Joel Farabee. That was a really good scrap. Oliver Morgan ran over. There's just a lot of chippy plays, but like I said, the Hawks, the shooting, their timing of shooting is what's the problem. You see them in these power plays. They had quality power play chances, went 0 for 4 last night because they're not shooting the puck enough. And then when they do shoot the puck, it's from far back along the blue line at the point. Nothing quality up close, no high danger chances. And I don't understand that. When you have this much talent, you're supposed to have much better shot attempts, much better quality chances than you're giving off right now. And so it wasn't all Devin Cooley looking like, prime Mika Kiprasov last night. It was a lot of the Hawks just had some terrible shot selection and just weren't pressuring him, weren't peppering him enough with quality shots and quality chances. And that's happened more often than not with this Hawks team. The Columbus game, it's another one that was disappointing as far as that over goes. But like you said, they've won 3 in a row. And that was really interesting to hear Merzlikins kind of saying, hey, new coach. That's the reason why we're moving on and kind of feeling ourselves and playing better. And like you said, that's huge coming from him, a guy who's been through a lot, who's been through the trenches. If I'm not mistaken, he's one of the longer tenured guys on this team. So for him to make that statement, then makes you wonder. Okay, maybe Dean Evason. We know his style of coaching. We know that he can be very vocal and be very rah. Maybe he lost the room with that. And that change needs to be made, even though we didn't see that from the outside perspective. We're kind of wondering, hey, why are you firing Everson now? But obviously the guys in the room know what's best one way or another. And that's what that comment made me think, okay, maybe he had lost the room and now they've got a bit of a groove about themselves. I don't know if it's going to mean anything as far as making a run to the playoffs, but you're definitely seeing a lot more life and energy from that Columbus Blue Jacket team right now.
Yep, the coach bump. Like I say, I'm not going to overreact to it. I'm definitely going to ride. I'll tell you right now, Columbus will be on the card Saturday when they play against Pittsburgh. We're going to ride this thing until they lose at this point. There's no question because clearly there's some momentum. Clearly there's been a cleansing of the air here for them with Rick Bowness coming on board. Look at how Kent Johnson's playing all of a sudden. This guy's been dynamite in 2 games. You couldn't find him with a telescope on the ice before the coaching change. Really tough season for KJ there in Columbus. And look at him now. Great game last night. And he was good against Calgary as well. But last night, a goal and an assist. We had the Kent Johnson goal. Probably had a bargain bin. I didn't even mention that. Bargain bin special. Charlie Coyle. He's red hot. It's 3 games in a row now for him, scoring a goal for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So Charlie Coyle's making it happen for them right now. So like I said, good times for Columbus here, these 2 games with Rick Bowness behind the bench. We'll see if they can make it 3-0 for Bones tomorrow. They play Pittsburgh All right, let's get into Friday. San Jose, Detroit. Detroit minus 180, home favorites, 6.5 the total. I'm going to take a shot with San Jose again. I know it's back-to-back. And certainly the one thing that's concerning is rest advantage Detroit, and they got shut out last game by Boston. So you'd expect a good effort from the Detroit Red Wings here in this game. But San Jose's got a decent enough back-to-back record this year, that I think they could maybe have a chance here in this game. And they have given Detroit all kinds of problems. You look at the recent series history. Detroit won in overtime here 3-2, January 2023. San Jose won in Detroit at 6-5 in overtime the next season. Last year in San Jose, 5-4 San Jose in overtime. And in Detroit, they won last year, 6-3, this San Jose Sharks team against the Detroit Red Wings. So I just think Detroit's overpriced here. It's just too big of a number. San Jose is trying to get their bearings here on the road. It looks like getting on the road was a good thing for them. That 7-2 shellacking at the hands of the Vegas Golden Knights at the end of that homestand. I thought they played a hell of a game last night against Washington. I think they're worth a shot in this spot, even on a back-to-back at plus 150. Might sprinkle with the over in the team total right here going into this game. So the team total for San Jose in this game right now is minus 130, over 2.5. Now, Gibson's in net, and he's been really good lately, but he did give up 3 in the victory against Carolina the last time he was in net. So they beat Carolina 4-3 with Gibson in net, but Gibson still did give up 3. So I'm going to do a little Sharks team total money line split here. Give me this draw, too. There's too much draw history between these two teams not to take it here in this spot. We're talking 5 of the last 8 between the Sharks and the Red Wings going past regulation. What do you think here, Alex? San Jose, Detroit.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on dog and draw. But I was also looking to grab the win in overtime and shootout plus 600 at FanDuel with that mark and that team total over 2.5 minus 130. I'll play that a little bit smaller and maybe try to grab something closer to plus money in game. But I like San Jose in this spot here too. Like I said, off of a back-to-back, they've been one of the better teams. I think they can find a way to get past Gibson and Detroit here in this spot. Won't be on the full game over at 6.5. If I like anything, I see the pace kind of increase early, I can wait and try and grab that in game as well. But liking Sharks, liking draws, we've definitely seen serious overtime history with these teams. 5 of the last 8 meetings going past regulation. So definitely liking this draw. Best price available at Caesars plus 340.
Plus, earlier this season, when these teams played in San Jose back in November, that was a game that cashed the draw as well. 3-2 shootout win for Detroit in San Jose earlier this year. So, yeah, dog, draw, and I'll definitely pounce on a 5.5 if I see it to the over. I'm going to wait for that to show up. I'm not betting. This is the first game in 14 I have not bet a San Jose over pregame. And it's because now the streak's been snapped. I'll jump off at pregame for at least one game. But I will jump in at 5.5 live if I see it. To the over here with the Sharks and the Red Wings. As far as props are concerned for Sharks and Red Wings here tonight, a couple of things that are worth mentioning as far as goal props. Colin Graff heating up again, plus 500. I'm on it. This is a streaky goal scorer, scored last night, now back-to-back games with a goal. Pavel Regenda has scored in 5 of the last 10 games, and you can get him almost at plus 600. He scored last night for the Sharks as well in their victory against the Washington Capitals. So that's definitely something that's worth a look here in this game. As far as the Detroit side, I'm going to go, mention it again. Old man, JVR. He's actually, it's been a really good season for him. Got to give him credit. He still shows he can play at this level. And I'm seeing JVR, Larkin, and Raymond as a top line potentially tonight for the Detroit Red Wings. So I think JVR on that top line is worth a shot. So there's some good goal props with value, in my opinion, on both sides here in this game. All right, arguably game of the night. This could be next up. Florida, Carolina. We've got Carolina minus 170 to minus 175 here as home favorites. The total 6 across the board in this game. Carolina blanked, goose-egged by St. Louis in their last game. I'm still shocked that happened. 3-0 loss to the St. Louis Blues, and that was on the heels of the 4-3 loss to Detroit. So 2 straight losses for the Hurricanes. God, this does have that feel of circle the wagon spot for Carolina. 2 straight losses back home. This is a team that they absolutely despise, this Florida team, because Florida's, let's be honest, it's been ownage. Florida has completely owned this Carolina team, and I know Carolina's sick of it, but can they do anything about it? That's the question. And I know, even though there's some things that point to Carolina situationally back home after 2 straight losses, we saw the Florida Panthers going to do their annual Stanley Cup White House visit with Trump yesterday. So they had some fun and stuff with that. And now you got to go back down to Carolina and play this game after that. So, like I said, situationals are strong for Carolina here. But at the end of the day, price has to be in consideration. And you're talking minus 170 to lay it with a team that has had no success recently against the Florida Panthers. That's hard to do that. No matter how good the situationals may be in favor of the Carolina Hurricanes in this game. Florida just finds a way to beat them. And Carolina had leads both times earlier this season against Florida and coughed it up both times. Now, one of them was with Anderson, and we know Anderson's not trustworthy to hold a lead, but one of those was with Brandon Bussey. So we can't act like this was only a Frederick Anderson problem. One of those blown leads did come with Brandon Bussey in net. So that is something you have to keep in mind going into this game here tonight. Florida, it was a bad start to the road trip, but they have played a little bit better here of late, getting a couple of wins. They beat the red-hot Buffalo Sabres 4-3 in their last game. They beat Ottawa 3-2 before that, after dropping games against Toronto and Montreal before that. So we'll see how this one plays out tonight. I just can't do it, Alex, with minus 170. I think there's a lot of things in the situationals that add up well for the Hurricanes tonight. If they win, it wouldn't totally shock me, but the price just ain't right for me. Not with Florida having the dominance, not only regular season, but playoffs, obviously, as well, against this Carolina team. I like the over by Fecta a little bit. You've got this now. The system play angle is making a bit of a comeback. Teams off a shutout loss with the over by Fecta. I'm not saying it's all the way back yet, but it's certainly been better lately than it was earlier in the season. Betting these overs with teams off a shutout loss. Not to mention, I went back and looked. I'm always interested. How's Carolina off a loss as far as totals? They've lost 18 times this year. 18 times they've been off a loss prior to tonight. 12-6 to the over in those games for the Carolina Hurricanes. So it's a sign that when they're off a loss, they do push for offense, and we do see those games maybe open up a little bit more. Now, they do have Slavin back, and that certainly helps defensively, but I'm still on the over by Fecta. That's primarily what I like most here in this game. Over 1.5 first period, over 6 full game. Alex, what do you think? Florida, Carolina?
Yeah, most of those numbers have moved off of prices that I like for me, so I'll wait for the over by Fecta in game. Try and get a 6 as opposed to 6.5. Try and get a better number with that first period over. But I do like Carolina first goal, first period. You can get that at even money. I think coming off of a shutout loss against a team that they hate at home, they should be able to at least get that first goal on the board. So, yeah, at even money, that'll be my only pregame bet. Carolina first goal, first period, and then we look for the over by Fectas from there.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't it feel like we've seen 2 regular season meetings, and they were basically mirror images of each other. The 2 previous it was Carolina early, Florida late.
Yep.
That's what it was. It was Carolina getting the jump start on Florida, and then Florida coming back to win. So maybe we follow that approach here. If you like Carolina, look at first period puck line, maybe first period team total. Maybe you do the first goal, first period, which I really like that Alex mentioned. And then you look to bet Florida live. It may be worth taking a shot with that again, because we do know that the moment if Carolina gets in front 2-0, 3-0, wait for, we know if Carolina's got those, in the back of their mind, they know they've coughed it up twice this year to Florida. And they know the moment Florida, if they're down 2-3-0 and Florida gets a goal, that game could turn on a dime, because that's exactly what happened the first 2 meetings. Carolina was up big. Florida got that first goal to get a little momentum, get a little wind in their sails, and then the game just completely flipped and turned around from that point on. So that's definitely something that you want to keep in mind for sure when it comes to this game. As far as props, there are a couple here. Lundell, we've talked about it. Lundell's been so good since he's been elevated and playing with Reinhart and Kuhlman, Luostarinen on the top line for the Florida Panthers. He's probably once again worth a look here as far as prop on their side of the equation. Carolina, when you look at it, it's Logan Stankoven, Jackson Blake. We've talked about those 2 players over and over again right here for them, and they have certainly been good lately. Logan Stankoven's on a bit of a heater right now. for the Carolina Hurricanes. 3 of the last 5 games with a goal for him, and you can still get good price, plus 375. Blake's been chipping in a little bit more lately here for the Carolina Hurricanes as well. So those are definitely a couple of the props that I'm interested in. We have not had a goalie confirmation yet for this game for Carolina. We know it's goalie Bob for Florida. The fact we've gone this long with not having it confirmed yet for Carolina means maybe it is Freddie Anderson tonight. We don't know that yet. But usually the longer it goes without an official announcement from Rod Brindamore, that's usually when we see Freddie. I'm not saying for sure that's the case tonight, but keep an eye on that as far as the goaltending here for Florida or for Carolina tonight. We'll see how it. Robert says it's Brandon Bussey. Let me just see. Brandon, I don't see it confirmed yet. Robert, I know there's one site's got Freddie projected, one's got Bussey projected. So, but it doesn't affect my stances. Like as far as the over by Fecta, we got Carolina off the shutout loss. We've also got both of these games have gone over. The 2 previous meetings in net have gone over the total 5-2, 4-3, both of them back in December. So it doesn't affect my stance. I do like overs here at first and period and full game, regardless of who's in net for the Hurricanes. All right, Tampa Bay, St. Louis. We've got Tampa Bay -1, looks like around -190 is what we're seeing here with the Lightning. The total here, 5.5 across the board. Now, for a guy that always, when I look at a total in a game, the first thing I do is I make a case for the over most times. I had a hard time doing that with this game. I did. And I know Tampa Bay's been scoring a lot lately, but we saw their, for the first time during this win streak, they scored fewer than 4 goals. For the first time during this win streak, we saw an under, at 2-1 in their last game against Pittsburgh, getting the victory on the back-to-back against the Penguins. And St. Louis shut out Carolina 3-0 earlier this week. And this was a great quote from Jim Montgomery. And by the way, another thing, too, with that win for St. Louis, they played as boring, dull, low event a style of hockey as I've seen St. Louis play in a long time in that game against Carolina. And when you start to see the injury situation for the Blues, Broberg day-to-day, Dylan all the way on IR, and now you've lost Robert Thomas, who is such a driver of their offense for this St. Louis Blues team. And now you're without him, Robert Thomas, who was recently put on the IR. It's no wonder this team's trying to play low and slow right now with some of these guys that are out of the lineup. And Jim Montgomery, after that great 3-0 win, shutting out the Carolina Hurricanes, I thought tonight was the smartest game we've played as far as playing a simple, effective game, making them turn, being reliant on our forecheck, little details and habits, block shots, net front, blockouts. They were the best they've been all year. That's our formula moving forward. That tells you this team wants to play 2-1 hockey. The coach basically just said it right there with a quote like that, following the 3-0 win over the Carolina Hurricanes in that last game. Plus, I do believe the better of the 2 goalies are slated to be in net tonight. Joel Hofer, who's been obviously a little bit better than his counterpart, Jordan Binnington of late, and Vasilevsky projected for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, they are still without Hedman, Lilleberg, and McDonough. We've talked about that. Braden Point, though, also on IR. So, like I said, we'll see how it plays out. But this is one where I have no bet pregame on it, Lightning and Blues, when it's all said and done. The Lightning did beat St. Louis in Tampa earlier this year, 4-1, late December. Tampa has won 3 of the last 4 meetings. That being said, St. Louis has taken the last 2 here at home in St. Louis. So this has been a place where the Blues have had some recent success against the Lightning, but I have just no interest fading Tampa right now. It's really that simple. Alex, what do you think? Tampa Bay, St. Louis.
This is a good spot for a combo bet, in my opinion. Like Tampa Bay with the under 7.5. You can knock that down to -116, -120. Like you said, St. Louis looking to play low and slow, and like I said, Tampa, we've seen the steam kind of run out a little bit with them at 2-1. Going to a shootout against Pittsburgh. Like I said, it's tough to keep a streak running like this. This wouldn't shock me if this is a low and slow kind of a game. So tying Tampa with the under 7.5 to get a better price looks solid. This might be one where I want to watch and see before grabbing a draw. I'm not necessarily liking the draw pregame, but if this has that kind of a pace early, then maybe take a shot, hope for a goal early, and then grab a piece of the draw live. So that's the way I'm attacking this. Tampa with the under 7.5, and then maybe look for a live draw.
And by the way, they just got another thing too with St. Louis and Montgomery talking about, hey, we want to play more of a defensive style right now. Nick Bukestad just came back last game for St. Louis. And I know he scored, but trust me, offense is not his forte. It's being a solid, reliable forward away from the puck defensively. That's where Nick Bukestad's pretty good. So he makes them actually a better team as far as up front defensively. So that's another thing to factor into this. That's a good point by Jonathan. There's been a move by Tampa Bay to recall and to call up Brandon Halverson from the American Hockey League. That means someone's injured. The question is, who is it? Or someone's not available. I shouldn't say injured. It could be a personal issue, but someone's not available, either Johansson or Vasilevsky. So that is why we don't have a goalie announced yet for Tampa Bay. So keep that in mind. We don't know for sure if it's Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky could be the one unavailable. And if that's the case, it'll be Johansson. But maybe it's Johansson that's unavailable, and they're just calling up Halverson to back up Vasilevsky tonight. So again, we'll see how it plays out as far as the goaltending. But like I said, nothing for me really pregame in this one. Going to watch it, see maybe something opens up during the game. One thing I do want to point out as far as a prop goes in this game, obviously for Tampa Bay, I've talked ad nauseum about Gage Gonzalez lately. I don't mind taking a shot there. Nick Paul might be center. I've seen Nick Paul with Kucherov and Gensel. If that's the case, we got to go back to our old pal, Nick Paul, for a goal prop tonight for the Tampa Bay Lightning. For St. Louis, Stenberg is with Shen and Snuggerud. Snuggerud did finally score last game. Maybe that gets him going a bit. Maybe a momentum goal prop bet with Snuggerud. Stenberg has some value. Dvorsky scored last game. He's centering Neighbors and Kyrou. But boy, do they miss Robert Thomas. There's no question. That's a big injury for St. Louis. And being without him won't be the easiest thing to overcome. All right, Nashville. And
wait, just a quick note on with the Halverson call-up. It was Jonas Johansson who didn't practice yesterday. They said they were classified it as he was out with body maintenance. So
it's probably Johansson.
So Johansson most likely is the one who's banged up.
Yeah. So it's probably Vasi starting and Halverson potentially backing up Johansson if Johansson is unavailable here tonight in this game. All right, Nashville, Colorado. Colorado minus 300 home favorites. The total here sitting at 6.5, shaded to the under. This is supposed to be the system where I like the Nashville to score in the first period. I like that with the underdog against a minus 300 or more favorite. I'm considering it, but the only concern I have is Colorado off the loss to Toronto Monday. They haven't played since that overtime loss to Toronto, which, by the way, wasn't just an ordinary run-of-the-mill loss. It was a loss that snapped a 17-game home winning streak for the Colorado Avalanche. So it was a loss that snapped a pretty impressive streak that was going for quite some time. And you worry that Colorado just, puts the boots to this hockey team early and maybe doesn't look back. The dog in the system in Avs games has scored in only 3 of the 6. Okay, that's good to know. So basically 50% proposition. Because what I kind of like here is I kind of like Colorado's first period team total over. It's the over 1, and then so that if they only score 1, you get a push, and obviously if they score 2, you get paid. So I'm kind of, because that's the approach I took with Columbus last night. But the reason I opt for over 1 instead of over 1.5 is in case something like what happened with Columbus happens here, where if they only score 1 goal, we get our money back. We get a push out of it. So I'm interested in that Colorado first period team total over 1. I do like first period over in this game for sure. Over 1.5. I know Jonathan pointed it out that the over in the first period has been good in these games for Colorado when they've been bigger favorites, in this minus 300 range. He mentions too that the goal in the first 5 and the goal in the first 10 minutes, 5-1 in these Avs games when they're minus 300 are bigger favorites, and all 5 home games. All right, you've sold me. GIF. I'll take it. Yeah, the GIF's cooled off lately. The goal in the first 5 minutes. There was a stretch there earlier in the season when these Colorado home games, every single one of them, there was a goal in the opening 5 minutes of the hockey game. It's kind of cooled off a little bit since then, but definitely, like I said, I think tonight could be the night to jump back in. You get good plus price with FanDuel with it. a goal in the first 5 minutes. But yeah, that Colorado team total in the first period in particular, I like taking a shot with that. Maybe kind of get the lead and then put it on cruise control after that. And then the first period over, I like. So mostly my looks and my bets that I'm interested in most of all here in this game are early between the Predators and the Avalanche. What do you think here in this one, Alex? Nashville, Colorado.
This was going to be a complete pass, but no, I did add the gift at plus 152 in that first period. Like I said, been solid marks with that. That's the only thing that I trust in. Seeing it go early, and then I can go from there live if I look for anything that pops up. But that's the only play I like. Plus 152, goal in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, everything's first period. I didn't do anything full game here. One thing to note, too, some of these games have been unders, Predators and Avs. That's why I get the feeling that it could be one of these deals where, you get your 2 goals early, maybe 2-0, something like that, or 2-1, early in the game, and then it kind of simmers down after that. We'll have to wait and see. It looks like it's going to be Saros. And by the way, it's going to be Mackenzie Blackwood back and starting tonight for the Colorado Avalanche. And we know he was nearing a return for a little bit now, and finally he will be back. And it comes at a good time because I know Wedgwood's been dealing with a little something injury-wise, and they've obviously had to start Trent Miner, a couple of times of late, the Avalanche. So to have Mackenzie Blackwood, he's missed the last 6 games due to a lower body injury, so to be able to have him back is a nice boost for them. His numbers are good, 13-1-1, 2.07 goals against average, 924 save percentage for Mackenzie Blackwood this season. So he certainly played well. Yeah, Avs puck line. Jonathan mentioned that. Avs -0.5. You're not getting a great price on that because they're such a big favorite. But yeah, it's certainly I could see the Avs having a fast start. That would not shock me here. All right, as far as props for this Nashville Colorado game, I mean Stamkos and Yossi have both scored in back-to-back games for Nashville. And obviously Stamkos has had a great run, but even Roman Yossi, last 2 games he scored, and you can get plus 600 for him to find the back of the net. For Colorado, it's the usual cast of characters that I'd be looking at for props. Lehkonen, Natchez has been good. Brock Nelson. Gavin Brindley, keep an eye on that, on him, because it looks like he's with Brock and with Valeri Nichushkin tonight on the second line for Colorado. So there could be some Gavin Brindley value here as far as being able to find the back of the net is concerned. All right, last game. We go to the West Coast for the California battle here. Anaheim Ducks, Los Angeles Kings, LA -140, home favorites. The total here, 6 across the board. San Jose had their long, lengthy overstreak snapped in their last game, and it happened to Anaheim in their last game as well, which stayed under the total but it stayed under the total in a victory. A 3-1 win over the Dallas Stars, and boy, a much-needed win for the Anaheim Ducks. They needed to stop the bleeding. It was getting to the point where not only had they fallen out of a top 3 spot in the Pacific Division and a wild card spot as well, they were on the verge, if this had continued, of really fallen a decent amount out of the race altogether. But that was a big win for them to stop the bleeding and get some confidence back. And I think the best part about that win was it was a good defensive effort. Everyone was committed at that end of the ice. And more importantly, Lukas Dostal was terrific. That was easily the best game I have seen Lukas Dostal play in a while. And he needed it because we've talked about ad nauseum on this show how he just hasn't looked sharp. He hasn't looked at his, on top of his game since returning from that injury. He looked a lot more like the Lukas Dostal of old in that victory over the Dallas Stars. So we'll see how they fare here against the LA Kings. Remember, they were in LA recently. It was right around Christmas time, and they got shellacked 6-1. LA pounced on them early and didn't look back. And the Anaheim Ducks were right in the throes of the skid at that time. So we'll see now if they've got a little bit more confidence. And you know what I always say about these teams on a losing streak? When they finally snap it, I usually want to back them. And when I look at LA, because I talked about this game specifically on the Wizard Sports Picks Beyond the Lines video today on their YouTube. And I was starting to think to myself, we know LA stinks at home. 7-16 is their home record. We just saw them lose back-to-back home games against Dallas and Vegas. And I'm not saying they played terribly. They actually outshot Dallas and Vegas, but they can't score goals consistently. They just can't find a way. They can't get that big save when they need it, that clutch save, that clutch goal when they need it in a close game to turn the tide in their favor. That continues to be a problem for this Los Angeles Kings team. And they're still dealing with a decent amount of injuries, too. They're still Perry day-to-day still, Kopitar, Moore right now, battling injuries. Now, Anaheim was short-handed in the Dallas game, won it in spite of the fact that Leo Carlsson was out. Chris Kreider was a late scratch as well as Troy Terry. I think Troy Terry for sure is back tonight. We'll see about Chris Kreider and Leo Carlsson. But I went back and looked, and I said, this Kings team has been abysmal at home. We know it. They're 7-16 at home. But it felt like to me when this line was minus 170 on LA overnight, I'm like, they're a big favorite here. And I kept thinking to myself, it feels like the Kings have lost a bunch of times as big favorites at home this year. So I went back and looked, and I compiled the entire list of games where the LA Kings have been massive favorites this year and lost. And it's unbelievable how bad it is. 7 times this year, the LA Kings as a favorite of minus 150 or more at home have lost. Minus 200 against Pittsburgh, loss. Minus 200 against Boston, loss. Minus 210 against Chicago, loss. Minus 170 against Calgary, loss. Minus 165 against Columbus, loss. Minus 220 against a Seattle team on a back-to-back that had dropped 17 straight games on a back-to-back. And they were minus 220 favorites, LA, against Seattle. Loss. Minus 240 against San Jose. Again, San Jose was on a back-to-back that night. Loss to the San Jose Sharks as minus 240 favorites. Give me Anaheim, man, just based on that. These prices continue to be just absolutely stunning. That the LA Kings continue to get this kind of market respect when they deserve none. Zero on this home ice. None. None whatsoever. So I'm on Anaheim. I got a better number overnight. I got plus 150 was out there, I found, at a couple of places. Plus 150. No wonder this price is taking a tumble. Who the hell wouldn't bet against the LA Kings with the ridiculous opener they put this thing at? They put this sucker way too high initially. Unbelievably bad opener. Win or lose, that's a terrible line where this opened. LA minus 170. Ducks are live, in my opinion. They got a little confidence back with the win earlier this week. Give me Anaheim. Alex, what do you think here? Ducks, Kings.
Yeah, I got plus 120 this morning. I didn't get the good price you got last night, but I also grabbed team total over 3 at even money at BetMGM. Flat 3. Like you said, there's no reason to be backing LA, betting on LA as a favorite. And like I said, when it was priced in line at a higher price, we've seen them play even worse in this role. So the price change doesn't change anything for me. It's still LA at home, still a bad spot for the Kings as usual. Give me the Ducks here on the money line and that team total at flat 3.
There we go. Good stuff there. Beckett Seneca. He was actually on the post-game interview with TNT after the win against Dallas. Plus 300. He scored last game. Always interested. Someone to keep an eye on, too. He scored a couple of times now for this team, and then scored last game, too, to tie it. He's been jumping up into the play a little bit more lately and getting a lot of ice time finally, as he should be. Brant Clark has been very solid for the LA Kings on the blue line, so keep an eye on that. Darcy Kemper confirmed in net for the LA Kings. It looks like, just as I'm talking about Lukas Dostal playing great against Dallas, this is the front end of a back-to-back, and they're in Anaheim, these two teams, it looks like tomorrow night. It looks like Ville Husso actually might start tonight, not Dostal, but that doesn't change anything. I still, this is a price play for me. I mean, it's just insane that the Kings were minus 170 when this thing opened over. Think about that. And I just rhymed off 7 instances of them losing at home as a minus 150 or greater favorite. 7 times that's happened. So even if it is Ville Husso, you just hope it's a good Ville Husso. Because, there's some nights Ville Husso, gives up 5 or 6. But then there's some nights he can totally stonewall you and shut you down. So it depends on which Ville Husso you're going to get. But, yeah, I still like Anaheim here regardless. Is it Dostal confirmed on left wing lock 20 minutes ago? Okay, there we go. Says Dre. Good to see Dre in the chat. All right, shout out to everyone in the YouTube chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Check out wizardsportspicks.com. Of course, it's been a great run on the website. A lot of great handicappers. Check it out. We got NFL divisional playoffs this weekend, NBA, college basketball, NHL, college football national championship game Monday night. Nice to be profitable in NHL, NBA, college basketball, and NFL. Number 1 ranked on the website. I am at NFL. So make sure you get on board. Daily premium picks, long-term subscriptions too, 3-day, 30-day, 7-day, and 1-year all access passes. And it's $5 Friday, a new initiative on the website. $5 Friday. So all picks now down discounted to $5 on Fridays. So make sure you get on board. Any daily premium pick there, just $5. Check it out at wizardsportspicks.com. And check out patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. Goalie charts, totals charts, our daily betting card, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. And again, we've got lots of bonus stuff coming. We got a couple player suite things that might be coming down the pike. We've got the 2 Patreon exclusive live betcasts toward the end of January. We're looking forward to that. 2 of them coming up before the end of the month. And they'll be our last 2 betcasts before the Olympic break as well. So you're definitely not going to want to miss those. So get on board. Just $10 per month. Your membership goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping it going long term. So check it out and get on board. $10 per month. Patreon.com/Ice Guys.
And also check out the Ice Guys store at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. You got 3 days left to save 20% off of everything in the store. Hit the redeem button at the home page, add your items to your cart, and 20% will be taken off at checkout. We got a lot of great items that are fully in stock right now, so definitely take advantage of that deal. 3 days left, 20% off. That's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guy sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
Kings and Queens shop.
Shout out to all our sponsors, including Royal Cannabis. Check them out, royalcannabisshop.com. 20% off with promo code Ice Guys. Bargain bin special of the night. Well, Charlie Coyle last night coming through for the Columbus Blue Jackets. We'll see if we can add to it tonight. Alex, starting with you as always, bargain bin special of the night.
I've got 2 of them, and they both come from the same game with San Jose taking on the Red Wings. First, we'll start with the visiting team. This price is crazy, especially when he's moved up to the first line. Colin Graff, anytime goal scorer. BetMGM has him at plus 550. For comparison, FanDuel has him at plus 410. A couple other shops have him at plus 390. BetMGM plus 550 with Colin Graff. That's my first bargain bin special. Then we go to the home team. You got a man who's chasing a record of the most points by a U.S.-born player. That would be one Sir Patrick Kane. I like him to get at least 2 points tonight, plus 420. Even though I like San Jose to win this game, I think it's going to be a close back-and-forth battle. But give me Sir Patrick Kane to get 2 or more points, plus 420 at FanDuel. That's my second bargain bin special. So Colin Graff, anytime goal, plus 550 for San Jose. And Sir Patrick Kane, 2 or more points, plus 420. Those are my 2 bargain bin specials for this Friday night.
There you go. San Jose, Detroit is where it's at for both of Alex's bargain bin specials of the night for this Friday NHL slate. Bargain bin specials for me. I'm also, one of mine is from that San Jose and Detroit game, but I'm going to go to Pavel Regenda. Pavel Regenda plus 575 Betway. Graph's on the card too, but I like even the value a little bit more with Regenda tonight. He's been noticeable. He scored last night for the San Jose Sharks, plus 575 for Pavel Regenda for the San Jose Sharks for my first bargain bin special of the night. And my second one for this Friday night slate, he's right on the button at Bet Rivers right now at this moment, plus 300. Just enough to make the grade. Seneca. Beckett Seneca for the Anaheim Ducks, plus 300. So there you go. 2 bargain bins. We've got Pavel Regenda, San Jose, plus 575. Beckett Seneca for Anaheim, plus 300 for my bargain bin specials for this Friday night. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
Let's go to that late game, the freeway face-off, I think they still call it. Anaheim and LA. And like I said, this is just another crazy price. We got to back the Ducks here as a dog on the road. Give me Anaheim. I got plus 118 is the best price available. That's my best bet for Friday.
All right, there you go. Anaheim, quack, 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 quack. Anaheim Ducks. There you go for Alex, plus 120 for his best bet here for this Friday slate. My best bet, I'm going to go to that Florida-Carolina over. Florida-Carolina over 6. I think the best price right now looks to be minus 115 in that range. 2 overs this year with the Panthers and the Hurricanes head-to-head. 12-6 to the over for Carolina in games off a loss this season. And we've got Carolina off a shutout loss. And the system play with teams off a shutout loss to the over is starting to make a little bit of a comeback here the last few weeks. So put it all together, and I think we'll see enough goals both ways for Florida and Carolina over. Florida, Carolina over 6, minus 115 for my Friday best bet. Shout out to everyone in the chat at the like button. We appreciate it very much. And again, big Saturday card coming up tomorrow. Very much looking forward to breaking that one down. 12 games. Oh, and it's Hockey Day in Canada. Coast to coast on CBC and Rogers Sportsnet in this country tomorrow. So that will certainly be a big theme coming up tomorrow. Great stuff. Hit the like button on the way out. Reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Friday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will see you tomorrow on Saturday, noon Eastern, for another edition of the Ice Guys.